Hey guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to something a little bit different that's more in line with the house build that's happening on the channel now. Now, the ultimate question or thing we want to cover in this video is, why does my basement wall leak? So I see tons of videos from my community board that specifically asks, why does my basement leak? Why do I have a leak? My building envelope warranty has expired, all this kind of stuff. And when it comes down to it, in our climate, which is Calgary, Alberta, Canada, we're in a bit of a special climate where we've got a very, very wide temperature range, wide temperature swings that affect how our buildings and our building envelopes perform. So that's what we're going to cover in this video today. For any new viewers on the channel, to give you a bit of a background about me, I've worked in the building industry now for going on 16, 17 years, grew up around construction, have many different facets of experience when it comes to building envelopes. Currently, I work in the construction industry and I'm currently building a house. So let's take a look at our climate and why we have some of the building envelope issues that we have. All right, guys, so this video is quite specific to our climate. So again, we're located in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. And if you are watching this and you are located in somewhere else in North America, you're probably not, unless your conditions are very similar to ours, going to run into these types of conditions. So the way our city is located is to the west, we've got the Rocky Mountains over here. Okay, so we've got the mountains over here. If you're familiar with this area, in the mountains close to us is Banff. All right, so that's about an hour away from Calgary where we're located. Now, we've got about, let's say, just roughly 100 kilometers, just to keep things simple, between the mountains and our lovely city of Calgary. All right, so that's how our city is located compared to the mountains, and that's a pretty important thing when it comes to why we have issues in our basement and also our attics. So what happens is, over the past couple weeks in Calgary, we've been at very, very cold temperatures. It's been a high of about minus 22, minus 30, you know, it's been, and this is Celsius, really, really cold, which is about minus 15 degrees Fahrenheit, somewhere in that range. So it's been really, really cold. Okay, so we've got this cold Arctic weather system that is sitting over top of Calgary, and we're very, very cold. Now, what we experience in Calgary is something called Chinooks. So the high, low pressure system, I'm not a weather guy, but that makes it over the mountains. And ultimately what's really important with this is our weather swings go from being extremely cold, so minus 20s, minus 30s degrees Celsius, and overnight we can get into plus temperatures. Like today, it's a high of about +2 in Calgary, the sun shining, warming things up. Tomorrow's supposed to be +6 Celsius in Calgary, and these are when all these problems show up. So let's take a look at how a basement is constructed and how and why we see so many problems that we see. So I'll throw a couple pictures up now of the very, very common problems that you see that people post about for basement issues, and everybody thinks it's a leak coming from the outside. Now, just a disclaimer for you, this is not a blanket fix and a blanket reason for every situation, but if you look at the underlying conditions, this is probably the cause of your problem. All right, I'm drawing this upside down, guys, so it's good for you, but so bear with me here. So we've got our basement wall, okay, which is right there. Now, our basement wall has a top like that. So this is our basement wall, okay? So this is our concrete wall. Now, on top of that concrete wall, just making sure you can see this, we've got our, I'm not going to do all the complete details here, so we'll just keep it simple, and we've got our floor joists, okay, which look like this. And on top of the floor joists, we've got our 2x6 wall, most commonly, sitting on top of those floor joists. Okay, so what happens here, and these are TGIs, so they've got that larger wood on the bottom and the top, and they've got the OSB in the middle. Okay, and then in your basement wall, you've got generally, and again, these are just general construction methods, you've got your 2x4 wall like this. We won't do all the details of the 2x4 wall, but that's our 2x4 wall. Okay, and you've got some insulation stuffed in this 2x4 wall. You've got your 6mm poly here. Okay, so this is poly. All right, and you've got your rim joists or your joist ends over here. So there's lots of different ways that builders will deal with joist ends. The cheapest and most common way is they put fiberglass insulation in your joist space, and then they're trying to take the poly and they're trying to seal up around the joist ends and tie in to, now this is not to scale, they're trying to tie this poly into this poly. So you might see black stuff all around the perimeter, which is the black caulking to seal the poly, but this is really, really tough to seal because your joists look kind of like this. Okay, so your TGI joists. So if you're trying to seal the side of this, you're putting black caulking here and here and here and here and here, and you're trying to seal that poly and staple it in there, and it doesn't really work so well. That's where a lot of the problems come from. So I'm doing the basic overlay here of construction, and then we'll talk about where the problems come from. So a little bit better way that you might see is you might see this as spray foam, okay? And sometimes they'll come out and they'll tie in to this 2x4 wall. So the nice thing with we'll just call it SPF, spray polyurethane foam, is it seals up the joist areas really, really well. Now, if you don't have polyurethane foam in your joist ends, this is probably where your problem is coming from. Even if you do have spray foam in your joist ends, you can still have this issue, but it's a lot less common because this deals with the primary problem, which is air movement when it's really cold. Okay, so let's cover some of the reasons why this happens. So in the most recent picture that I saw, posted in our group, I could tell from the picture that this is spray foam. It has to get covered with a thermal barrier in our location. So you can see some gray, it's called fireproofing or thermal barrier. And there's lots of different options for that. That's sprayed over top of the spray foam to cover it, okay? So the problem with that picture though is the spray foam did not tie in to this frost wall, it's called. So what happens is you've got a cold exposed concrete wall that isn't insulated. Now, this foam will sometimes come over the top like this, but usually there's a gap right here in between your framed wall and your spray foam or your concrete wall. Now, in most locations, this concrete wall is sticking out of the ground. Okay, so this, when it's minus 25 degrees Celsius outside, this wall, concrete wall here, is minus 25 degrees Celsius. So if you've got a big gap here, you're going to get tons of condensation from the warm air in your house right along this top area. And then it warms up outside, this concrete warms up and is allowed to let that frost melt. And then at the bottom of your wall, it looks like there's water coming out of the bottom of your wall. All it was frost buildup. Now, when you look at building envelopes in general, what happens is the air always moves from warm to cold. So in our climate, we've got both extremes, okay? So in the middle of summer, the warm air or air movement is from outside of your house to the inside of your house. In the wintertime, the air movement is from the inside of your house to the outside of your house. And it's very, very dramatic. When it's minus 22 outside, guys, next time, go to your front door, open your front door, and watch that air pouring out of your front door. And you can tell if there's a leak at your front door because usually you'll see frost above your front door on your soffit line. And that means your trim may be not performing like it should be. So keep that in mind with air movement. Now we'll get back to this diagram. Okay, so back to the original design of having fiberglass in the wall and fiberglass here. Now I've even seen it where people have spray foam in their joist ends. So spray foam up here, and after they did the spray foam, the mechanical guys came and they plunged a big hole in the exterior. Nobody sealed up around the pipe or the penetration, so really there's a massive hole, and it doesn't have to be massive. If you look at the way air flows, if you've got a, let's say, what's that, a 3-inch round hole, and you put a 2-inch pipe in there, okay, the amount of air that's flowing through this area around that pipe is insane. And the colder it gets outside, the more air movement that is happening here. There's usually a way for moist air from your house to travel inside this wall cavity and condense. There's lots of different factors, so we can't cover them all, but I've seen it sometimes where the bottom plate of the wall isn't sealed and there's a bunch of penetrations in this poly, which is also in this type of construction is your air barrier, so it's trying to prevent air movement. Any sort of punctures in this poly or your vapor barrier all the way up to here will allow warm, moist air from your house to escape, get into this wall cavity, and condense somewhere in this wall. We see it over and over again. So the point of putting this video together, guys, I'm a homeowner as well. I don't work for a home builder. I work for a contractor. We deal, and I see tons of this building envelope issues constantly. So I wanted to put this together just to give you a little bit of background on what your problem could be. Now, it very well could be a leak from the outside of your house. That's totally legit. It's totally possible, but if you find that you live in Calgary and you find this problem showing up in the next couple days when it went from minus 25 to plus or close to 0, chances are this, what we just discussed, is probably your issue. Now, I'm not going to do it in this video. Maybe I'll put another one together, but a lot of people talk about condensation in their ceilings, on their upper floor, attic rain. I'll put together a video maybe on that as well. It's really no different than this that we just talked about. It has to do with our location, has to do with building envelope construction, and has to do with just all those different factors and possibilities put together. So last thing I'll touch on, guys, is what's the solution? Well, you can do this successfully, this construction method successfully with fiberglass insulation. It's not easy though. I live in the deep south part of Calgary. If you look at my current house, it was built back in 2008, 2009 in a brand new community. At the time, I worked for a spray foam manufacturer. My entire house is spray foamed. We've never had an issue, including in my basement, which is undeveloped, and it's really the right solution. So there's lots of different ways to go about this. If you want some solutions, if you want some contacts for some companies that can help you, feel free to reach out to me either in the comments below. You can shoot me an email as well too, and I'll do my best to help you guys. That's the purpose of this video, to put something together so you can understand what's going on with your building envelope. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. If you have any questions, again, listen down below, shoot me an email, hit that thumbs up button. If you like the content, hit the subscribe button down below, and we'll see you in the next video.